call the Steele County Board of Commissioners meeting to order and ask you all to rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you for attending today. With that, we will need a motion to approve the agenda. Is there any additions, Scott?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, is there a second? Okay. Anybody have anything they want to pull from the consent agenda? Okay, with that, all in favor of the agenda approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we move into public comment. Those wishing to speak must state their name and address for the record. After they are acknowledged by the board chair, each person will be limited to 2 minutes to make his or her remarks. Speakers will address all comments to the board as a whole and not one individual commissioner. The board may not take action on an item presented during the public comment period unless the item is already on the agenda for action. When appropriate, the board may refer inquiries and items brought up during the public comment period to the county administrator for follow-up. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment tonight?
Melissa Zimmerman, 2525 Stony Creek Drive. Here about the East Side Corridor as it pertains to the transportation plan. We are now more than a year and a half into this project. Just a couple weeks ago was the first time the county engineer learned there were houses on this right-of-way. After we as residents, during one of our public comments, showed a map showing these houses. This is not a small detail easily overlooked when due diligence is done on a major project like this. We as residents have been saying this for a year and a half now. We are asking for your due diligence. If due diligence was done, we would have seen all of this plan was abandoned in late 2004 for safety and growth. Today, residential subdivisions are noise-sensitive areas. MnDOT and federal regulations say to protect these areas, we need to avoid, minimize, and mitigate, in that order. The first line of mitigation is a noise wall. No one really wants that. We're too late to minimize houses already built, but we can avoid. Federal regulations say quiet rural areas like ours need 500 plus feet of space. If we move this highway 500 feet east, we are at the next alternative. Yet we didn't study any alternates. We don't have any studies to show the benefits and impacts of other routes or to determine if they would meet our needs. We don't even have a traffic study to show if this project is needed. In 1995, there was an entire environmental assessment done simply to study the impacts of the alternates. 119 pages. Why didn't we study alternates this time? Please protect your residents. Please do your due diligence by critically questioning all aspects of this project to ensure it aligns with current regulations and provides safety. If it was unknown that houses existed, what else isn't known? What else is inaccurate? We would welcome conversations to discuss our concerns in more details. We don't need answers, just conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Matt Sennett, 2519 Stony Creek Drive. Also here on behalf of residents in our neighborhood on the East Side Corridor project. There are many studies that are related to traffic noise and health issues. And here's one from the Federal Highway Administration. And it's, as Alyssa said, the first mitigating factor for any type of road project is to actually move it to an area that is going to impact residences less than to try to mitigate the noise factor and health concerns after the project has already gone in. Obviously, that's much cheaper to do it long-term that way too, than to try to band-aid something on later to mitigate the impact of noise. As it relates to noise in residences, residents, homes, apartments, those types of things are actually supposed to be built in a certain way to be close to these sorts of projects, these highways. And obviously nothing on that side of town is built in this manner with stud spacing, certain distance to minimize noise and vibrations, things like that. So it just makes sense to study alternates, and that's not been done for some reason. But that makes the most sense at this juncture And it's my opinion, along the lines of many other residents, that we're studying the wrong road. 29th Avenue back 30 years ago might have been a viable option to study, and it was. Actually studied in the 90s, determined not feasible. Here we are again, and for some reason we're not studying 34th. To my understanding, it's because of tabletop exercises and things like that, that we're not looking at 34th. It's been said it's too far. Well, I'd like to see the studies that say that. Very few residents say it's too far. I've not run into any that said that 34th would be any further than 29th, taking that. So to us, it seems like a knee-jerk reaction to the high school. I don't think that's a reason to ruin a bunch of neighborhoods. And I think the $250,000 would have been better spent studying 34th and 29th Avenue. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Jeff Otto, 2490 Fox Hollow Lane. And I was here a couple of weeks ago concerning the Highway Capital Improvement Plan. And after a fair amount of residents spoke up with concerns over your plans with the East Side Corridor, response was given that we just need to wait for the environmental study. And I'm just asking, we've had representatives of the neighborhood attending these meetings for over a year now, and just asking what's preventing you from just stating what's reasonable. I know you're waiting for a study, but there's nothing preventing you from coming out saying, here's a reasonable expectation. This plan that you're working with originated back in the 1990s. You abandoned that plan. That land was transferred over to the city. The city developed a bunch of residential lots, and those lots extend into 1/3 of the right-of-way for this road. Now you're proposing a bigger road. You're going from a collector to an arterial. You're trying to fit it into the 2/3 of the right-of-way that still remain. And that buffer between the residential houses and the road is gone. You have houses literally on the right-of-way of this road. So just asking you, what's preventing you from stating, here's what's reasonable to expect. I know you're waiting for a study, but if this is something that's been here for 25, 30 years, I feel like you should be able to say, here's some reasonable expectations without a study. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, thank you all for your comments. Scott, is there any correspondence? Sure. Okay, thank you. With that, I will ask for an approval of the consent agenda as printed. Mr. Neely, is there a second? Second. Mr. Brady? Any other concerns on that? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the general part of the meeting. And number 14 is to adopt a resolution approving the 2024 to 2028 Highway Capital Improvement Plan and amending the use of the transportation sales tax. And before we vote on this, I will read what we are required to do. And it's by statute, the county must approve an updated transportation plan that amends the use of the sales tax for transportation projects. The 5-year highway transportation plan is a fluid planning document that provides a list of projects planned for the next 5 years. These projects are considered tentative in the plan until the board approves a budget that contains the project in a given year. Tonight, the board is considering approval of the 5-year plan as it does each year, not any specific project.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer the resolution approving the Highway Capital Fund Plan, improvement plan, and amending the use of the transportation sales tax.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have a county board work session today, and number 15 on the agenda is the proposed FTEs for the 2024